Welcome to our Star Trek Picard after show, season 3, episode 3, 17 seconds, which one of the three of us is known as 17 seconds amongst the ladies, but I will not let you know which one of us it is. You can guess as we go along throughout the show. Possibly it's all three of us. I, as always, am Christian Bladt. And popping in right there, the one, the only Salmon himself, the Dark Prince, David Weiss at D Weiss Comedy. Hello, sir. Thanks for joining us on this voyage.
Yeah.
And a triumphant return after being with us last week, Tom Kelly of the Tom Kelly Show. Not the first time that we've streamed from your childhood bedroom,
but the first time I've removed a Cabbage Patch dolls.
Ouch.
We learned a lot from those early pandemic era podcasts.
Are they Cabbage Patch dolls dressed in Starfleet uniforms? Would
no,
at least be on brand.
So the most off-brand thing ever actually is I used to have a Star Trek poster here, and about 12 to 13 years ago, my mother said, "We're redoing your childhood bedroom," and I kind of said no because I still have stuff there.
Yeah, right.
So the deal was, I'm like, if you ever want to see me again, you had to keep. I told my parents they had to frame my childhood wallpaper, which is, pull it off the wall. This justifies the framing, but it was space shuttle wallpaper.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and cool. So anyway, and then what's funny is my father is a great man. My father spent money to frame. He actually paid money for the framing. If you remember what framing shops were before they invented Michaels. So anyway, I think we justified the $20 he spent on framing this back in 2007.
Definitely.
Yeah. But it was one of those things like, we are not going to have space shuttle wallpaper up with your brother getting married this month.
It sounds like stinking thinking to me. But
yeah, and hey, the wallpaper lasted longer than the marriage.
Oh,
marriage is going great.
Oh, that was so great. I've never been more disappointed to hear that a marriage is happy. Mr. Weiss, Salmon, yes, David, this is your first appearance as we discuss season 3. I want to give you a moment. Your thoughts on the story so far heading into tonight. This is our 3rd episode. So what'd you think of the first 2? And by the way, full disclosure, on my advice, you skipped Star Trek Picard season 2 in its entirety. Yes,
I did.
Good for you.
I don't feel I missed anything. No. I'm really liking what I see so far in season 3 of Picard. I've got some nits and gnats,
sure,
but I really feel that they're running uphill, and we're going to get to a tipping point soon, and the fun part is starting.
Yeah, I hope that it's the big drop at the end of Splash Mountain sometime soon, because so far it's been the little dips, the little drops.
Yeah.
And Tom and I are both on record as having slightly different opinions and expectations for what we've gotten. Let's talk about what we've gotten with season 3 right there in the chat. Immediately, Dominicus Saxon. Not a fan of the kinder, gentler Worf, especially after the killing spree he was introduced with.
Yeah.
Farad Muhammad disagrees. While I'm sure the term working on myself would be seen as archaic in the 25th century, I agree. I don't mind a more sagely version of Worf. And Dominicus follows up, Worf became the Glimmer Man. In any case, I think that, I don't know. I feel like he's consistent with a character that we haven't seen in 20 years, give or take at this point, at least 15. And, maybe he's working on himself, but he still had the joke. He still has jokes. Beheadings are on Wednesday. Tom, no matter what you thought about the episode, did you hate that moment? I feel like you couldn't have hated that moment.
I've put more thought into the show knowing that I would be on this tonight.
Sure.
I think Michael Dorn he's half in Worf and he's half in Michael Dorn. I think he's like doing a Worf impersonation. Like, I think his voice is a little weaker. The punchline was there in writing, beheadings are on Wednesday, but he sounded like, like he was a little soft. Beheadings are on Wednesday. It's fine. I'm I'm trying not to hate it, but I'm glad he's there right now. Worf is my favorite part of Star Trek Picard.
I can essentially agree with that, except for the fact that they've made the decision to pair him up with my least favorite part of Star Trek Picard, Star Trek over the, let's say this, I'd say that Raffi is my least favorite part of post Voyager Star Trek, because it's too hard to compare. And this, oh boy, this didn't do them any favors. It's really hard when you got those shakes. All right, we get it. You're a junkie. I don't believe it. I didn't believe it in season 1. Just stop trying so hard. What were you going to say, Tom?
I'm going to argue she's the best and most consistent thing on Star Trek Picard.
You're talking about on the 3 seasons as a whole?
The 3 seasons as a whole. I mean,
yeah, but let's pretend that this is the only season.
Pretending that this is the only season, I'm going to even argue she's right now. And maybe because I'm emotionally attached to the other characters, but I think her character is the best written character on Star Trek Picard.
I would say least written.
Okay, and here's where I'm gonna, we're gonna hash this out as
like men,
but like men. But here's the thing: she is at least consistent. She's a drug addict. She's on a mission. Picard is screaming "fight" 1 minute. You know, like Picard and Riker. Actually, here, let me make the point concisely. Raffi has been whiny and annoying consistently, whereas everybody else is one thing 1 minute and then another thing when the trope suits them 2 minutes later.
Oh, that's character development.
Yeah, but I don't disagree with the point, though. It is a little inconsistent, but to David's point, in terms of character development, I think the only character that went on a swing that made sense is Shaw. He was one thing, and then he's like, all right, I guess we're going to have to fight. And, look where that got him. Exactly where he thought it would. I mean, he's not dead, but,
Might as well be.
Yeah. All right. So, David, let me toss some of these topics to you. Let's talk about Worf. Let's talk about Raffi, but let's start with Worf first.
The kinder, gentler Worf is a little off for me. I would never put the words "I've been working on myself" into Worf's mouth in the 20th century.
Let me just stop right here. All three of us have written in some capacity. We have taken words and put them into characters' mouths, sometimes the characters ourselves. I don't think any of the three of us, we could have been basically living in one of those loops where we rewrote this episode thousands of times. I don't think I ever would have put "I'm working on myself" anywhere near Worf. Yes, Tom.
If I make the argument, I don't think the line was so awful. His delivery was off.
Delivery also not good. I think it's a twofer. Yeah.
Listen, I always go back with Worf. My favorite Worf line was "prune juice, a warrior's drink." Yeah. Now, I could see I could see Worf using "I am working on myself" as a sarcastic line or referencing something, but whatever it was, the delivery was so weak, I wasn't sold on it. That's not the thing that annoyed me the most about him. What annoyed me the most was you can't preach pacifism right after a beheading. I actually didn't mind,
Which, by the way, if there's anything to put on a T-shirt for this show, it's that you can't.
And I'll also argue, I don't think outside of Slayer, actually, I did love the Slayer of Gowron line. But I will argue, I don't think we've ever seen Worf be that violent, except for the slaying of Gowron and who did he kill in Next Generation? No, I guess it was Gowron that he killed.
Yes.
I feel like how many times has Worf killed in Next Generation?
It's not he killed Gowron, right?
Yes, and then I feel like he killed somebody in Next Generation.
To your point, whatever his kill count is, it's not that high.
It's quintupled in 3 minutes of screen time.
Yeah. Well, do Ferengi kills count? I don't know. I've always found them so annoying. I feel like they in some ways they deserve it.
Terrible.
But in any case, I think here's the thing. If he had said "I'm working on myself," ironically, after the beheadings, I think it works really well. But to Farad's point, it just doesn't feel like they would use it in the 25th century. By the way, he does also say, I guess Worf is a merrier man. Yeah, I think that's fair.
Who isn't the merrier man?
Yeah, we're all merrier men now. Although Tom still seems to be a little upset about the wallpaper.
I am a little upset about the wallpaper. And if I can just give your fans a comment, I'm actually switching it so that I don't see the comments till you share it with the show.
Okay, good.
You have such a great group of people who comment and love your stuff, Christian. You're lucky to have such a great fan base. You really are.
Hey, you've got Jacob Lee Downey too. It's I share him.
I have failed to entice anybody besides Jacob, but in this environment, I'm just laughing at that. Fard, you made me laugh out loud, and then I had to bite my tongue on it for a good solid minute.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't mean to ramble, but dude,
no, it's fine.
But to your point about Worf and the irony, and listen, this is the thing. This show will be. I want to rehash 3 comments just for David and anybody who chimes in that hasn't seen me before. The show is not. I treat the show like it's fan fiction at this point.
It is fan fiction.
It is very high budget fan fiction,
high grade fanboy material
by one kid on a 12th grade writing level.
Yeah,
and that's point 1. Point 2 is I want to like it and I don't. And 3, I really love the trailers, and this show would be great as a 15-second TikTok here and there.
I mean, I think that you can say that about a lot of Star Trek. That
most of them are. They're all going on copies of a copy of a copy. Well, and through the generations, if I could use a bad Star Trek pun,
sure,
copies lose integrity.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a great line. And then my other great line that I've stolen from someone else, and I refuse to cite the actual source. I once read an article where a guy said loving Star Trek means admitting half of it is crap. And you just have to let go of it. Now, that said, you can't do that on a 13-episode same story arc because you're just stuck with the junk.
I believe it's also 10 episodes, but I could be wrong. I can't remember.
And I can't believe a younger version of me can't believe he's saying this now and in public, but I'm glad.
You're glad.
I'd rather. In fact, can we whittle this down to 8? What can we do?
I think it might be too late.
In my opinion, I mean, what's going to happen in episode 7? We're like, I'm enjoying it because I went into it with the mindset like, I know it's not going to suck, but I know it's not going to be great either.
Right. And as someone who was in the trenches and on the front lines of season 2 myself, I feel like this is never going to be that. I've already said that on this show, that it has already managed to be more enjoyable than season 2. There's a lot of fan service to both of your point about the to the point about the fan fiction. It is the most fan servicey fan fiction, the like for which if you were reading it aloud.
Oh, Christian froze.
Convention, you have to say. Oh, it happens. But what were you going to say, David?
I was going to say, is it enjoyable on purpose, or is it enjoyable because 30 years ago you had a great experience with these people and now it's nice to see them again?
I'm going to go with a little bit of column A, a lot of column B,
Okay.
Yeah.
But hang on for a second. I just pause and say, you and I have done this, 10 times now, Christian? That is the smartest thing anybody has said on the Star Trek after shows that I've heard on your shows. And just so I'm knocking myself in this, that's 1,000 times smarter than anything I've ever said on this podcast.
Sometimes you have to hop on the Merrick Parkway to get a little bit more wisdom in your life. All right. Sometimes there's just not enough there.
And that's the problem and here's the thing that has me angry, building on David's point. I'm known for pooping on this, everything done after J.J. Abrams' first movie. I will argue you're seeing old friends 35 years later, but they're not the old friends. Say what you want about the 3 J.J. movies. Kirk was Kirk to the best of their ability. Uhura was Uhura. These are the same actors, but they're not the same characters, and they don't want to be. None of those actors, except for
that's
Frakes.
intentional.
Repeat that.
You're saying that's intentional. Yeah. Well,
and it's badly. And the last point that I've made many times on the podcast is that there are none of those actors want to be doing Star Trek anymore. They just want the check, and they want to act, and they want to be seen, to be hoped that they get picked up for another project, with the exception of maybe Jonathan Frakes.
Well, because he also gets to direct, and by the way, he directed this episode as well. As
anytime he directs an episode, that's a plus for me.
Yeah, I agree.
They're always very tight.
Yep.
Can we start with the things that I liked that are superficial before we go deep?
Yeah, please.
It was well paced, this week's episode. It's the first time in a while I've enjoyed the effect shots. I thought the Titan looked good. And even though I think the plot and the writing was dreary, I thought it was a well cut and shot show.
Yeah, I think the presentation was good, but I think that what Tom was saying earlier is that his feeling is that 17 seconds shouldn't be the episode title. It should be the runtime. Is that fair?
Yes. Okay. Again, keep it a TikTok. Keep it at TikTok length. There was just too much to think about in this show. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to take over your job of hosting this, because I know you have a methodical way of working through it, but they were not the same character. Like every scene, they were screaming out for a different thing. Now, if you told me Picard was senile and still suffering from Alzheimer's, or, that would have made the episode more enjoyable for me and made it more understandable, because the character was irrational. And my overall problem with everybody in the show is nobody is likable. I'm not rooting for any of them.
Yeah, I like Geordi's kid. I'd like her to live. Fine. I'd like to see her some more.
Geordi's kid, who's had 6 lines. I actually liked her better until they started giving her lines.
That's fair. But Picard's kid, I think that the attempt to pull at the heartstrings was just a missed opportunity, because if he has this kid that he didn't know about, that he learns about like an hour ago, and he never got to talk to him, and he died. Oh my God, that's good storytelling. But no, he's fine. He's fine.
When that happened, I was like, "Oh, they're going there."
That was my thought. I was like, I was going to commend them. There were other things in the episode, but if he had died, I'm like, you know what? That would have been cool. And then I realized, nah, they didn't go there.
To their credit, I believed it. Once they hit that 5th breath, this is actually, I need to write out a better script next time I do this with you, but these are the voyages of the Starship Troper Prize. And they brought in a son that's like, oh my God, I saw that in Star Trek 2. The son you didn't know that you did know. Oh, you're too busy.
Yes, there are repeated themes here, but please,
Patrick Stewart. But here's the one recurring theme in the last season and a half, if not possibly everything since Star Trek First Contact, is Patrick Stewart wished he was playing Kirk. Picard was supposed to be the nerd. Picard was supposed to be the statesman. Picard was supposed to be, in Gene Roddenberry's vision, the ethical standard. And now we're hopping around, we're killing people. Actually, one thing I really liked in this episode was how many people were bleeding because we're hanging out because this guy is related to an admiral. I mean, this is nepotism, the nepotism prize. That these are, we're going to risk 500 lives.
First Nepo baby.
Yeah, there you go. I was trying to find a way. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. He's from planet Nepo baby. It was just like the whole, here's what's killing me on the show right now is, why are we fighting for this guy? Why is this guy worth fighting for? Like, if there was something magical about him that was explained, like he saved lives. I mean, I actually really loved the Fenris Rangers, and I would enjoy the whole season a lot more if 7 of 9 were a Fenris Ranger again.
That's probably going to happen.
Yeah, I agree. The reason why he's still alive is probably because he looks like Ronan Farrow. Craig Robinson checking in from across the pond. I enjoyed the episode, kept me dialed in. It is very late on the other side of the pond, as it were. Thank you, Craig, Dominica Saxon. We all appreciate the fact that you're here, especially because we don't usually do the show on Thursdays, but somebody's got to drive to Vegas tomorrow, so we had to get it in today. But I think that so it's twofold. Is a loss in storytelling that they didn't have the moment where he died, but also I wasn't going to miss that character even a little.
If he had died, we wouldn't have missed him.
None of us would have tears streaming down our face. And I know, Tom, you want to talk about how old he is. So you just feel like he's supposed to be 20?
He looks 30. Or
he's 34. More. The actor is 34.
That's all right.
And that's dopey. That's just a casting mistake. That's a behind the scenes.
Yeah, but just a casting mistake. It's $1 billion TV show here.
I agree with you. I mean, it's a mistake that can never be made.
Well, you know the saying, in space, no one can hear your crow's feet. So maybe we're just supposed to look the other way.
In space, no one can see your birth certificate. Listen, I shaved 10 years off my age when I do jokes on stage, and people have stopped believing it a lot lately.
And also on Bumble.
And but listen, actually, to use another comedian's line, my problem with this the characters is, who are we? Why are we here? To use the old Seinfeld thing is, I don't know. I know it's the old gang. Sure. I know they broke up because Beverly got knocked up and decided to stop calling people. You love this man to sleep with him 5 times and then you cut him off. I mean, I just don't believe that Beverly would think so little of Jean-Luc Picard to not tell him he had a son. I don't believe, I don't believe that she would be on Earth.
So your thinking is where I'm at last week. I think that her explanation, is it's not really so much that it's flimsy. It's like disappointing, but you're like, no, it stands to reason. And the one point she made that it's hard to argue with is, if people know that you're Jean-Luc Picard's son, then there's always a target on your back. He's always having assassination attempts, and she doesn't want that for his kid. And look, it's interesting because she wins me over when she says, oh yeah, no, I asked him if he wanted to meet you. And he said, nope. So
that's not a decision that she should be telling Jean-Luc about.
Yeah, because I would say
in my opinion, here we go. You don't get to make choices, life-altering choices for other people, no matter what your reasoning, your dissembling. You can roll yourself into a pretzel like Crusher did, but the bottom line is, she didn't tell him he had a son.
Yeah,
and that's he didn't even have the space to get angry. He was angry for like a second before he went into some kind of fugue state when he told Riker, "Oh, it's irrelevant." It's not irrelevant.
Well, at his age, it's more like when a dog sees a shiny object. It just it's very hard for him to stay focused.
Within the conceit of the character, him being 94 is the appropriate age, the exact age. I think any 94-year-old would want to know if they had a son.
Yeah, but
and have a bigger reaction to it than kind of like.
But then that raises the question that, what 74-year-old other than Tony Randall wants to be told that they do have a son, possibly Mick Jagger, Well, I think he should say thank you. I've been able to live my life these last 20 years. I appreciate that. We can get back to this in a second, but focusing on the inconsistency already in this season, Dominica Saxon talks about Picard used the Admiral's orders against Shaw. Why didn't he pull rank with Riker? I think it's probably because he I guess felt like maybe he was wrong after all. But I think that Craig answers it better than I do. And Tom, I'll give you a second. But Craig says, good question. think through all that, he was still trying to respect Riker's position, and he seems to think this is all a bit triggering for him, mentioning loss. It was a little out of line. What are you going to say, Tom?
Well, I mean, why? And also, too, why would Shaw, if again, this is how inconsistent it is. At the end of last week's episode, Picard was pulling rank, and we put the second highest ranking guy in charge. It's just who the heck?
It's a huge inconsistency. I really bumped on that, and it would have been the way to handle it would be for Picard to try it again, and Riker says, "Get off my bridge, old man."
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I mean, in the sense of commanding the ship, is the captain considered more battle tested and more ready? And does Shaw get to make the decision? Shaw transfers command to him. Does he do it to Riker? Because look, Riker's been the captain of this ship before, and I think if he wasn't, it's a little bit of a different conversation. You're not wrong. He's the ranking officer on the bridge. He has certainly sat in that chair enough, but it could just be as simple as Riker is better suited to be the captain of the Titan in a crisis. What were you going to say, Tom?
Well, first of all, he was not the captain of that ship. He was the captain of the previous Starship Titan.
Oh, okay. You're correct.
They added an A and built a new one because apparently, and again, what made Riker so great? Again, when you talk about the inconsistencies, how great would it have been at the end of Picard season 1 if Riker showed up in the Titan? Again, it's what scene do you need me to be in? And that's where my life will be. And you're just going to have to, this is where the show would be better as a TikTok in that moment. Let's just watch this, not think too hard, blah, blah, blah. But, it's not Riker's ship. It's not Riker's old crew. He was in charge of another previous ship named Titan, and we're allowed to legally use the name Titan on this particular show. Because I think that's the anyway, you put the Admiral in charge. If the Admiral can boss you around in episode 2, the Admiral should be in charge in episode 3. If the Admiral,
you have to handle it like Christian and I just said. You have to handle that.
I agree, and I don't think it was handled well. He gets rid of him after the fact, and
that didn't sell to me.
Yeah.
And the other one is, I'm going to even say and that's the first flaw I had with Riker, actually, is you just got us all killed. No, Riker, you were sitting in the middle seat.
Exactly.
You took
You're the
number one's advice.
Right.
And that's what happened. It's Riker's the one who almost got us all killed.
He had the last word.
Yeah.
And he went with it. So,
and I don't think if Riker made a bad call, the Riker I know, or the Riker I loved 35 years ago, to David's line, wouldn't say, "Hey, it's your fault I made the bad decision." I mean, this is, what are you in a bad marriage here?
Yeah.
It's sitcom.
All of a sudden, a lifelong friendship turned into a bad marriage.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well,
granted, lives were at stake, but still, if it were me and I was with my best buddy of over 40 years, I would never do that.
Yeah, but I've known both of you for around 20 years, and I think we're both in, I'm in bad marriages with both of you, so I can kind of see how it is. At this point, it's just at this point it's just comfortable, and it's easier for the kids, the kids that I have with each of you.
And let's go with gotta fight them. I mean, again, let's pretend this is, and here's where I get with Star Trek, why I get so passionate. In my head, I'm imagining it's real at every second. And, and I can't let go of the bad writing after it's over. But in my head, I'm like, all right, we're going to turn and fight. Okay, if we're playing a Starship tactical simulator video game, they have a lot more torpedoes. If you're going to play Kobayashi Maru, did you reprogram the simulator? Do you have a trick up your sleeve? No, you were really going to fight the portal, like the little, and I am so forgiving. I'm willing to forgive the magic technical portals, the Wonga prize, to use to go into a Marvel universe, but the Wong portals, the Mystic Arts portals, I'm willing to forgive that. Sure. Technology I don't understand. Sure. But what do you got to fight him, Jean-Luc? You want to fight? Sure. I didn't see
At that
any
point,
advantage to anything other than running unless you're going to ram the ship, unless you're
Right.
going to ram the Titan into the enemy ship.
At that point in the show, there was every reason to believe that if the Titan moved a muscle, that the Shrike would blow them out of the sky. I mean, every time, that first moment when Vadek lowered the shields to let them see what she had, it was obvious that totally outgunned, and they were outgunned and outmaneuvered from the very beginning of that, of this confrontation.
Right.
So,
Well,
I agree that, Picard's, let's go fight.
yeah.
Basically
Well,
not,
it's
based on the
alluded
fact that-
to in the episode that the Shrike could have obliterated the Titan if they wanted to. And then there's this idea that they want Jack because they really want Jean-Luc. So I think that we might be able to forgive a little bit when there's the realization of like, yeah, they're able to, pull all this off because this is what they're trying to do. And they weren't ever going to be able to fight and destroy the Shrike. They're just not capable. Which it's interesting that, there is any class of Starfleet vessel that apparently, I don't know, it goes out with the training wheels still on, or it's got like bumpers like in Boulding. I'm not quite sure what they did to this ship. It's like, shouldn't they all be able to, just decimate anything in its path if necessary?
I don't know a lot about the Navy, such as it is, but you've got aircraft carriers, you've got destroyers, you've got supply ships. They're all built differently because they have a different function. You don't expect a supply ship to be able to take out a submarine. I mean, I'm sure they have some defensive capabilities, but not every starship goes out of space dock armed to the teeth.
For someone who claims to not know a lot about the Navy, you sure do get excited when it's Fleet Week.
Well, and if I could just build on David's point for a second.
Yeah, it was you could sail the seven seas. Yeah, what we're going to say,
They
Tom?
designed the most badass on-screen starship we have seen in 55 years of Trek. We've got 6 impulse engines on the ship. God bless. We have the little curvy badass saucer section. Fine. It's wider. It looks tougher than the Excelsior, blah, blah, blah. And then 3 scenes later, it's weak. It's not, the writing is weak. Giving some credit, I enjoyed Worf's, actually just it popped into my head about consistent writing. I enjoyed Worf's speech about the Dominion War.
Yeah.
And the little reference to Odo.
That's pipe. That's easy.
That's for us. I agree. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I did want to transition to the changelings and the reveal, which is, it's interesting. It's not something. I think we have our look from the trailer. We have our thoughts from what we might get here. This was not something I was focused on. I like the nod to Odo. Rene Auberjonois, of course, sadly passed on, so Odo cannot be a part of this. However,
thank God,
he's part of the Great Dead Link now.
Look, I'm just more disappointed that he wasn't able to do the Benson reboot that we were all hoping for after Robert Guillaume's stroke.
Great Dead Link.
I think that timing wasn't great because I said my thing and then you said your thing, but it came across after what I said. In any case,
and I heard them both, and I'm gonna just lay low for a minute.
On-screen comment that I might not read. This is from earlier when we were talking about sailing the 7 seas, and now we will withdraw that comment. Thank you, Dominicus Saxon. How do we feel? I'm going to ask you first, David, about the reveal of changelings, and I'm glad we got a shout out for the Dominion War. Let's not forget about it.
No, as a shapeshifter myself, it's nice to be represented.
Yeah.
Yes, Dominion War. Never forget.
Never forget. I agree. Yeah. Never forget the last time Star Trek was nice. Good.
I'm as I study more and more TV and film, Christian.
Yes.
I found that recently, like, there's a trend, the multiple villain. So, we've got all these villains so far in 3 episodes.
Yes.
So now the founders are involved, and we know that Lore is somehow involved. We know that Moriarty is somehow involved. So is it like an evil Justice League thing going on here? I mean, I don't know, but that's the only way I could write my way out of it, is that if all these idiots, join forces, like it's, meanwhile, at the lair of evil,
the Legion
of
Doom.
Legion of Doom,
word you're
yes.
looking for.
Yeah, I mean, also, we would have accepted the Sinister Six. I think that they're putting together the Sinister Six, the Legion of Doom, the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants.
Right. Yeah,
whichever.
Like
yeah, yeah. Look, I think that in some ways, if I'm watching Star Trek at 47, having really watched it for more than 40 years of my life, I can't quite pinpoint the starting point for me, but if I'm still watching it, it's because I want to enjoy it. Some of it is the nostalgia. I definitely grade on a curve. Season 2 of this show was so bad. There was some things are just unforgivable. You want to talk about never forget the tragedy of Picard season 2. So, it's just, I think that the evaluation of this season that comes at the end of the season is, because we're at a point where I'm like, this could add up to that. This could be all right. Raffi could get sucked out of an airlock. There's a lot of good things that could happen. Definitely good things that could happen,
And Seven pulls the switch.
So look, there's a lot of things that could happen. The idea of reigniting a Dominion war, the idea of getting to see some changelings, which we haven't. I don't know. I mean, they haven't really used them since Odo. I'm sure somebody will have an example for something that I'm just not aware of or don't remember. So I'm okay with throwing us the red meat, chumming the waters with the, hey, remember Odo? And it really is. It's like the it's like the Dane Cookization of Star Trek, because his comedy is a lot of like, hey, remember Transformers? They were more than meets the eye. Was there a joke in there? No, but what about GoBots? Okay, so it's like, yeah, the payoff might not be there, but it's like it's pretty. It's you know what, Tom? It's something you said. This show is the Titan. You look at it at the surface. Oh my God, look at that! Look what's happening. Look what's on my screen. And then when you actually go on the ship, you try to bring it into a battle and use it practically. Well, it doesn't have anything that you actually need, but it looks pretty. That's what I'm going to have to be okay with at this point.
So I'm going to build on something you just said a minute ago, which is, this is already
Raffi going out the airlock.
I like, again, at this point, at least here's the nice thing about Raffi is they're not fucking up my childhood with that scene. Point. Yeah. Say what you want about Raffi. It's different. You want her to be different. You want her to do something you haven't seen on Star Trek before. At least you're not fucking up my childhood with her. With the point I was going to make is I'm going to argue it's the same bad writing of season 2. It's just now they're playing with characters I love and care about.
Right. They got a head start.
And and the thing is now I like it visually. Like you're right. I actually kind of like the show on mute. Like on mute. They're running around. They're blowing. No closed captioning. Then I don't know the plot, David. God no. But I like it on mute. They're running around. They're blowing things up. They seem happy to see each other. Yay!
We should do a separate podcast for the mutes.
Yeah, it's just not a. But that's the one is they're fucking up my child. At least season 2, even with the woman Borg, the doctor,
murder doctor. I can't remember what we even called her, but she was the murder Dr. Borg in the end.
Murder Dr. Borg,
murder Dr. Borg Queen. Yeah,
but even murder Dr. Borg, it's not fucking up my childhood. Now you're telling me that you do a bad scene with Beverly, you're fucking up my childhood. Now, I didn't mind a couple of Beverly's lines of how Space and Starfleet took my first son, Space and Starfleet took my first husband, and I wanted a fresh start. It wasn't bad. But
Not
but it's
you.
kind of
I mean, come
No,
on.
no,
but
Beverly.
I'll even argue. But the difference between a Beverly Crusher and a Dr. Marcus from Star Trek 2 is Beverly, you're part of the problem too. Don't give me the babe in the woods routine, Karen. You're part of the problem too.
Yeah. No, look, it is a great point. I thought that there was some interesting stuff. I did like that the doctor of the Titan was like, "Can you stop doctoring around here? I need to go and doctor not as effectively as you, doctor."
So can we do a drinking game? And we really should. If I'm doing this podcast next week, we have to write out a list, and maybe your fans could get this going on Twitter. But we should have a drinking game every time a existing Starfleet member criticizes a crew member of the Enterprise for not knowing what they're doing or being old. Drink. Like, there needs to be a list like that. That scene actually bothered me. That was a huge trope that had no depth whatsoever. New doctor making fun of Beverly. Band-Aids have not changed in 20 years, Doctor.
Yeah, I disagree with that. I mean, 20 medicine, 20 years.
Go ahead, David. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, what? Who? Me?
David,
yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay. No, I disagree. I think that do you remember in, was it Star Trek 4, the movie, when McCoy is out in the...
Oh, that's a great scene. Yeah.
Out in the
dialysis. By God, what is this? The Dark Ages?
What is this? The Dark Ages? It's that.
And I would agree with you, except that it's triage. And in triage, at this point, you need somebody, you could have someone hold the Band-Aid down. I did have a big problem with the Beverly correcting the new doctor scene line. Well, maybe if you lean him to the left.
Mean, maybe if you weren't so stupid is basically what Beverly said. And look, I think the problem here is that David, and then also all these people from the crew who interact with our, let's just say, our friends of a certain age from the earlier show, I think that they all don't realize just how capable older people are. And I think they should all go and see 80 for Brady. I think that if you see that movie, you'll understand really that there's a lot of gas left in the tank. And there's a lot of fire in that belly.
Rita Moreno is spicy.
Okay, let's just end the show on that. Completely unrelated.
We're about to, but so Tom, I ask you this every time you're on. What could happen to win you over in the space of just next week? Episode 4. What happens in that hour where you're like, okay, I'm going to just push it all aside and just try and strap in and have fun? What could happen?
Well, I mean, I'm already in there every week because of you. I mean, I want to enjoy it. The nice thing about this podcast and the nice thing about your fans is I want to enjoy it. And there's other people suffering with me. That said, one thing I enjoyed in between the week, I'm glad it didn't come true, was our Twitter conspiracy theory that Jack Crusher was conceived in the episode The Naked Noun in season 1. Then Beverly went to carry the baby at Starfleet Medical when she was not in the show in season 2. That would have been very consistent with the actor's age and making the actor and character 35. That blew my mind for like 4 days until it wasn't true.
Right. So the season 2 that had Dr. Pulaski instead of Dr. Crusher because Gates McFadden had the audacity to think she should be paid. But
didn't want to tell whatever it is. And then plot wise, I had a baby but got knocked up by the boss, but didn't want to tell.
Can you imagine if like that's the retcon they did? It's like, actually she had a kid so in all those other seasons, every scene where you see her, she's like thinking, oh yeah, I got that kid that I still can't tell John Luke about.
So that came from a random guy on Twitter. And what's funny is it was making me so mad during the week because it was realistic that this group of writers could have gone there. And I'm sitting there like I always have problems with Worf not keeping Alexandra on the Enterprise. You're telling me you can't be a single dad on the most child-friendly starship in history.
Yeah,
They have a
Picard
daycare
Day.
center. They have a school. They have a friggin' gym and a holodeck. And you can't manage doing security. It's never going to happen. Anyway, that would have made me happy. What was the other things that would have made me happy? That could make me happy. I think the real thing that could make me happy, man, is if the thing, and it's not coming, is if it tried less hard. Like that's what I like about Star Trek Strange New Worlds is it doesn't it's like, here we are, we're together, we're doing a thing. My problem with Strange New Worlds, I get angry when it's like, and the security officer is Khan's great granddaughter. Well, now you're trying too hard. I like it best when it's just allowed to, we have the things and we let it breathe a bit, which they're not allowed to do on this show.
Well, there's that fanboy aspect where if you take a step out of canon, the internet will go viral and call for your head. And I'm not saying that's correct. I'm just saying
it's what it is. And Star Trek, I think, is more mindful.
It is because nobody has the balls to say, screw the fanboys, screw the internet. We're just going to make the best show, and we're going to like it, and they're going to like it.
Yeah, Star Trek is the most mindful of that. Remember how quickly they, the season 1 of Discovery, what they were like, well, these are Klingons. And they're like, just kidding. Those weren't really Klingons, and there's a lot of like, oh, it doesn't make sense that, that you have tech that is so far advanced from the original series that is 5 or 10 years later. And they're like, oh yeah, but this captain just doesn't like that. So, so like they always try to explain it away. And it's like, I'd rather you just be wrong than you take the time to explain it away in dialogue. And I'm sorry, Tom, what were you going to say?
No, just that, first of all, I think the problem, David, is they're doing exactly what you said wrong. Which is they're trying to, F it, we're doing our own show. It's different now. We're taking what y'all love and we're throwing spaghetti sauce on it. Whatever it is. I'd rather the changes be gentler. Like I actually loved, and everybody disagrees with me, I loved the first 3 episodes of season 1 of Picard. Picard was where I thought he'd be. He was a statesman, drinking wine in his vineyard. Now they overdid a little, like God bless, drink every time you hear tea Earl Grey hot. But it was
hot decaf. That was great.
Yeah, but the characters were where we wanted them, sort of where we wanted to be, but growing.
Sure.
Riker and Troy were still married. Now I didn't hate the idea that Riker quit Starfleet, but they didn't stick to it then. Because everybody loves seeing Riker back. I liked Riker and Troy being on a planet with one kid and child lost. That was actually a great episode.
Yeah.
Now I think they're going to beat the damn thing to death, though. It was a great theme for an episode. It was Lost. How does your favorite couple in the 24th century? She lost a kid. That's never been done before.
To an illness that, and you would figure that all illnesses in the 24th century have been cured. Anything deadly that would kill a child, you would think they'd have a cure for.
Yeah. And, like I would have, that's what I'd love is they're so busy trying to be huge. Listen, my favorite episode of Next Generation, I have my 10 favorites. And in my list of top 10 was Family, which was it was really the third part of the Borg episode, if you think about it. Ship gets blown up and Picard goes back to the vineyard. And I don't think there's a single special effect other than the Enterprise being in the cool space dock. And it was high. This is where I grew up. We're breathing. The B storyline. These are Worf's parents. And I even love the Wesley storyline, and I'm ashamed to admit it. But it was Beverly debating whether or not to give her kid a letter from her dead husband. And it was, again, not a single phaser was fired. The characters were deeply explored. I'd argue they still reference all 3 of those plot lines, even in the episode we just saw this today. The name Rashenko was used. We talked about the vineyard. No, actually, we didn't really talk about the vineyard, but we talked about Picard having kids, not having kids, blah, blah, blah. But those three, and we referenced Beverly's dead husband and Wesley. Again, I'd love to see, we don't need to go, it's so busy. And frankly, the effects are so dark and the sets are so dark. I don't feel like I'm home. You know what I want? Going all the way back. We could have all the way back to David's first line on this podcast. What would make me happy, Christian? And I'm sorry for the 5-minute answer, but it would make me happy to just feel like I'm home with old friends.
Which is an interesting thing to say when you're literally at home where you grew up, and all your old friends were peeled off the wall and put into a frame.
Have you moved back in? Is that what's going on here?
No, but I have a joke, David, through the pandemic, and I'm not living with my parents. I am staying with them. It's totally different. I have my own place. I'm just not there.
He's just not there. Yeah.
You're in LA? You're an LA based guy?
I am.
Yeah. I mean, the beautiful thing about LA is you can be in show business and feel like you're sort of in the suburbs. The problem with New York is you're either cramped and in a tower, or you're so far away you can't work.
Right.
And so I do 2 days on Long Island in the suburb of Massapequa as if I'm in the Hamptons, but it's not the Hamptons.
I mean, it's the Hamptons for
the Hamptons
for certain
in Nassau County.
Exactly.
If your fans want to hear about my emotional life, please tune into the Feel Good Tom Kelly Show podcast, available wherever good podcasts are sold. But
what I want to end on is I want to give David the opportunity. You're not as down on this show as Tom. I don't know if anybody's as down on the show as Tom is, but that's why I love the perspective. What would you like to see next week or throughout the season? What are some things that you're like, all right, these will check off some boxes for me to remain engaged and enjoying this?
Well, they need to integrate the Rafi and Worf story into the main story, because right now it feels like I'm seeing scenes from another show.
That's fair.
And I want them to get all that intertwined so we can see what's going on. Because they keep throwing stuff at us. This is happening, that's happening. Okay, so now I need to know why.
Yeah. Okay. I agree. That's the thing that I really, my takeaway is I want to see Worf with everybody on the crew. Where's Geordi? I would like to see more. I'd like to see the band back together. Is that so much to ask for?
So I have one piece of inside scoop. I can't say from who, where, and it's not as big as you think.
I don't hate spoilers.
I have friends who have seen. I know more than one person who has seen the first 5 episodes.
All right. Well, be careful with what you say, because if it's an actual story point,
we're safe. I've been told it gets better. Eventually, we all know the band is going to to get back together.
Sure, we do know that.
But the expression I have heard from more than one person
marriage counselor says about your marriage.
The point I've been told is each episode gets better. And for me, again, you kind of painted me as a hater. I'm not a hater, man. I am Charlie Brown. When every episode, think of me when you're watching. I'd love to do a live watch party with you guys, by the way. I think that would be
fun.
I don't know how we could do that technically or legally, but I would love to do a live watch party, because imagine Charlie Brown, and Star Trek Picard is the football, and it's really every time I keep thinking it's how the hell are they going to pull that football from Charlie Brown? That's the show is. How are they going to pull the football is this could be a good episode, and then they pull it from me every time. They do stuff to make me fall down and angry and upset again. So if you want to see me get upset, maybe I'll do that. I'll do a live Tom Kelly watching Picard party.
I think you should.
If you're into watching me suffer, you can watch me get mad.
Yeah.
It's kind of like watching Dad watch the Jets. I keep coming back.
Yeah, I wasn't able to get it up in time, and I don't want to play it. But basically, this is what we're talking about. That's you at the end of every episode. That's
me. And Tom, that is Terry Matsalis.
By the way, we get it. Terry Metalis. You notice that the planet that they've been on the last 2 episodes is M''Talis. Metalis. It's like, okay.
Oh,
no,
you
yeah,
just
yeah,
wrote,
yeah.
fuck
I hate
you.
that shit.
I hate that shit too.
It's
And
just fucking crap.
the fact that Tom hadn't mentioned it made me think that maybe he hadn't
Oh,
noticed.
the Star Trek writers. Fuck you. Just write the
No, and you know what you did? You just pulled the football again. Thank you, Christian.
Yeah,
because I hadn't noticed it.
Sometimes when you've already had the football pulled away, doesn't mean it's not going to happen.
And this is the
again
thing
right away.
I enjoyed, like, because one of the comments was about the barber, Picard's barber. I would love to see a reality makeover show with Mott the barber.
Yeah, I agree.
But hang on, but Mott the barber is a Bolian, named after a original series director, Cliff Bowl.
Oh, okay. Well,
and then apparently there is a throwaway line in one of the episodes where they talk about majestic things to do in the Federation. You can climb the cliffs of Bowl. Cliff Bowl.
Cliff Bowl.
I climb the cliffs of Bowl when I wake up in the morning. I don't know what that means, but
well, on that note, actually, hang on one second. Farad, granted that planet existed in Enterprise, Terry was a crew member on the show, and one of the writers named a planet after him. You know what? That's why what Tom's saying about.
Oh, really? That goes back 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to be less annoyed by it, but obviously he made sure to include it in his show. But thank you, Farad. I appreciate all the feedback from everyone in the chat, and especially Craig staying up late. I don't know. Is it 2 a.m? I'm really bad with math, but it's late. Let's just say it's really late across the pond at this point. In any case, we'll be back on next week. We'll be back on Friday. And follow me on Twitter at ChristianDMZ to find out exactly what time, because I don't even know yet. But if you also would like to subscribe to Blackcast YouTube channel, please do that. BLADTCAST. If you subscribe, if you go to our videos, you will see that earlier today I posted an 80-minute conversation I had with the great Dana Carvey as part of our 10th anniversary of the Blackcast. So please check that out. I also yesterday was on a gargantuan episode of the show Who Are These Podcasts, episode 389. I was a guest for 2 hours and 40 minutes, so please check that out. Or as I call 2 hours and 40 minutes, half a Blackcast. In any case, Tom Kelly's show, that's where we can find you. And Mr. Weiss, where can people find you apart from having lunch with me at the Smokehouse in the near future?
Ooh, good. Right here.
Weiss comedy. Yeah. Well, we appreciate everybody, especially people who have better knowledge and understanding than I do. But we'll see you next week. And as we say every week on this show, live long and prosper. Hang on.